question is this Price is Right idea seems to assume, or the Price is Wrong seems to assume there's an actual objective price hiding under there somewhere, whether
Right.
people are getting it right
Right.
or wrong. And I wonder what you think of the idea that there may not be, that the right price is just defined by whatever people happen to think it is right now.
Well, I mean, so that's the view people had when they thought they could hide behind the idea that they had an hypothesis you couldn't test. So one of the papers I wrote was on an episode during the tech bubble in which the company 3Com happened to be the owner of Palm. And somebody already knows the punchline of this story. So Palm, you remember, if you're old enough, a Palm Pilot, it was about the size of a deck of cards. And as far as I could tell, it could keep your contacts and also serve as a calculator and maybe a calendar. But it was considered pretty sexy. And eventually they had a phone that was sort of the first smartphone. Anyway, 3Com owned Palm, but 3Com was not sexy, and their stock price was flat in a period when any decent technology company was going up 20% a month. And so they decided to carve out Palm and make it a separate company. And so they did that, and they had an IPO for Palm. But they only sold 5% of the shares of Palm. They kept 95% within the company. And then the Palm IPO happened, and Palm was, anything that looked sexy at that time sold for a ridiculous price. And but here's an equation. I'm going to give you an equation, okay? 3Com shareholders each got 1.5 shares of Palm. All right? Therefore, the price of 3Com, it's an inequality, actually, not an equation. The price of 3Com must be greater than 1.5 Palm, because companies can't be worth negative amounts. But the day of the Palm IPO, if you computed the stub value of 3Com, meaning its price less its interest in Palm, it was minus $23 billion. All right, now, that's wrong. Right? That's really, really wrong. And I talk about it in the book when my co-author and I presented this paper at the University of Chicago. We ended up getting into a discussion of icebergs. And my friend Gene Fama, who's an efficient market advocate, said, look, these are trivial examples that you're showing us. And, okay, so this is wrong, but, the rest of the market is fine. And I was saying, no, this is just the tip of the iceberg. And I've studied a bunch of these, like the Cuba example, and I call them the fruit flies of finance. Fruit flies are not a particularly important species in the grand scheme of things, but they've been incredibly useful in genetics. And these special cases, like closed-end mutual funds and Palm and 3Com, are where we can say for sure the price is wrong. And so the debate turned, Gene was saying that this was the whole iceberg, and I was saying it was the tip of the iceberg, and it's a discussion we continue to have to this day. I think